As the world races towards electrification, digital infrastructure and defense readiness, securing access to rare earth minerals has become a top global priority. But which projects are real and which are just political talking points? Welcome to Navigating the Currents of Change. My name is Shaheen Chohan, and I lead global analytics at Industrial Info Resources, a company recognized for over 40 years in delivering trusted industrial data, verified and constantly updated across more than 12 major industries worldwide. Today, to help me dissect what all this means, I am delighted to be joined by Joe Govreau, Senior Vice President of Research Operations for the Metals and Minerals Industry here at IIR. Welcome, Joe.
Thanks, Shaheen.
Joe has been with the company for nearly 4 decades and plays a key role in how we track and interpret industrial project activity, especially in those high-impact sectors like mining and materials. Together, we'll be exploring what rare earth mining and refining projects are currently being developed, how global policy from the US and also other markets is influencing investment spending, and what are the growing demand for magnets, batteries and other clean tech solutions means for the future years ahead. So with that, Joe, I'd like to bring you into the discussion. We've seen some developments. Only very recently, we've seen some agreement between the Trump administration and their Chinese counterparts around rare earth minerals. What was discussed?
Yeah, so there's been quite a few changes recently with the negotiations. So back in April, I guess, China suspended exports of 7 rare earth metals, as well as permanent magnets. So this has a major impact on aerospace, automotive, semiconductor, and defense industries, not just in the U.S., but in the EU, Japan, and other areas that are into those industries. The automotive industry, for example, rely heavily on magnets for engines and electric vehicles. So most recently, the U.S. and China have agreed for China to supply rare earth and permanent magnets while reducing U.S. tariffs on Chinese imports to 55%. China would apply a 10% tariff on U.S. imports as well. So I think that's good news, or headed in the right direction anyway for the industries mentioned, but the situation is changing.
Why has this agreement and this discussion with China, why has it been so important? Why is it that China in particular seems to be on the radar for the Trump administration in terms of discussions around rare earths?
Yeah, I mean, China really dominates the rare earth space, especially from the processing and refining of rare earths. China controls 80 to 90% of the supply. It's a relatively small market. There's only about 40 operational mines and processing sites worldwide. And there's only one in the U.S., MP Materials in California. So it's a very complicated process. It's a dirty process. It takes a long time to permit, and it's very difficult in certain areas to permit, especially in the U.S. It can take years. Rare earth processing is a hydrometallurgical process, and it's very corrosive, so it takes special stainless steel alloys for pumps, valves, piping, vessels. So all that plays an impact on the importance. And then rare earths are used in a variety of industries. So defense industries, ceramics, in, as I mentioned, EVs, automotive industries. So it's used in a growing number of industries around the energy transition, and is seeing tremendous growth lately.
Why do you think the US is focusing so much on this particular set of commodities, and where are the current mining and refining projects that your team are tracking globally? Where is the capex being concentrated at the moment?
Rare earths are fairly abundant actually worldwide, but production is very limited, as I mentioned, to certain areas. China and Australia being come to mind. Activity, we're tracking about 187 active projects right now. This is for mining and refining projects. So about just over $23 billion worth of projects. And then there's additional $5.4 billion in projects for permanent magnet production, highly focused on China, Malaysia, North America, and Europe.
So clearly, I guess these commodities in particular have huge strategic importance, right? National security importance, certainly for the US. Is there therefore some kind of, are there any new policies or incentives that have been put in place to kind of support or stimulate, I guess, more domestic production and supply?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting things going on for critical minerals in general. In the U.S., for example, the Trump administration just put 31 projects, added 31 mining projects to the Fast 41 permitting list, which is the Fast 41 was created several years ago to speed up permitting for large infrastructure projects. And then a few years ago, one project was added that was mining related, and now just in the last couple of months, we've seen that list expand greatly. So we're tracking quite a bit of activity for in this space. And
I guess that Fast 41 permitting initiative or new piece of policy, that's really critical because yours is an industry where mining projects can take multiple of decades, correct? So this really should add a little bit of momentum to some of that CapEx activity and certainly some new mine development. Would that be right?
I would definitely see some reshoring of capacity, which could help alleviate the reliance on China.
Right. I guess also that rare earths are also important for many other countries around the world, certainly who are looking at maybe raising some of their defense-related spending and also to support clean technologies, the decarbonization. Are you seeing any other types of policies being implemented and put in place around the world which could, I guess, also stimulate and accelerate additional CapEx activity?
Yeah, in Europe, they have the what's called the Critical Raw Materials Act, and the European Commission has been expanding a list of projects that they support. It's up to 60 now. There's 47 projects, and you can see those mapped out here that are located in Europe, and then 13 outside of Europe. And these include not just mining, but refining and recycling projects as well. So a lot of activity in that space. So
we've got two markets which could be accelerating or increasing their mining and I guess a little bit of downstream refining CapEx as well, US, Europe. Do you think if some of these projects start to come to market and complete, that could actually reduce the world's dependency on China's current dominance in this market space? Yeah, I think it's going to be a long time. It'll definitely alleviate some of the reliance, but it's going to take a long time to develop these projects and bring them up to speed. There's a couple of projects in the U.S., for example, that they're shovel ready, but they're just waiting for the financing and permitting part of, the financing side of that. They have permits in place, but it's a very difficult, long process. So I think China will continue to dominate for quite a while. Well, thank you, Joe, as always. That brings us to the conclusion of the podcast. A very big thanks to you, Joe, for sharing your insights and perspectives today. If any of you have any further questions about any of the points that we've discussed today, please reach out to myself or indeed Joe via the contact details you can see here. Finally, a very big thanks to all of you who've taken your time out to join us. I hope we have helped you all better navigate some of the currents of change that we're seeing. Thank you.